Greetings, one and all. Greg here. We're at the United House of Prayer today. Breakfast awesome, and we're in Washington, D.C. So, today's focus, after we did our show yesterday, is on the fact that Tesla is going to come out this week with their earnings, as well as an announcement of what the production levels are currently and what they'll be in the future. So, the question mark is, are you going to be able to take $100, buy some Tesla call options, and make $5,000 by the next day? And the answer is it's unknown, but very high possibility. The other thing to note is that when we look at what just happened to Facebook, as well as um, some other margin announcements, there's some big changes afoot at Tesla that are worth noting currently. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Uh, Thanks for taking time out to say hello, and thanks for joining us once again. Please remember to like and subscribe. If this is your first time on our channel, please take time to like and subscribe. We could also use some help on Patreon if you would, and we could also use your comments and your like. We do have ads, so if you would watch 7 or 8 seconds of the ad would be appreciated. It definitely helps us keep our channel going. Today's discussion is a little bit unusual. The reason why I decided to do a show today is it was just announced that instead of the usual, I believe, 20 or 25% margin required when you short a stock, the Tesla margin has been increased to 30%. So I was thinking, for those who are longtime Tesla holders, this is a really important development. And what it means is that, so basically, instead of having to put up 20 or 25% of the money required for the regular options, the one of the largest entities in the option space is requiring 30% to be put up in cash. Now, you could say that this is a minor issue, but the reality is that the reason they did this is the volatility this week that's expected to surround the new the volatility that's anticipated this week for both what production is currently and it's going to be over the next month, combined with other variables, suggests that Tesla is going to have a violent move in the stock price. Now, why is this a big deal? Well, think about what happened to Facebook this week. Stock got smashed when they missed their target of growth of customers, and therefore, without that growth, the stock price was cut by 20% basically overnight. Now, the question is, what's going to happen with Tesla? It's my belief that Tesla currently is trading at kind of at the low end of its range of the last 6 months. And I believe that there's a lot of really good news out there, including 6,000 cars being produced a week when it comes to Model 3s. There's counterweighing variables there that are associated with Tesla right now, but if it's a question of is the ramp working and delivering numbers, I think it's a done deal in that regard. Now, I'm kind of fascinated because there's an open question of, does Tesla stock price get smashed or does it rise dramatically? It's my belief that this is sort of the last gasp for the shorties. The reason is that as Tesla gets into the 6, 7, 8,000 a week in the Model 3 production realm, we all of a sudden enter a zone where Tesla is sort of out of the woods when it comes to shortage of cash and other variables that would affect its ability to move forward. Now, one of the suggestions I'm making is that, for example, the stock's at about 297 right now. There are 300 calls and there are 300 puts. So if I were going to pick something, I would say that the 310 calls, maybe 320s, would be attractive if you decided to take a flyer on $100 to see what's going to happen, because Tesla usually has some pretty big moves up and down related to earnings. And yes, the stock could move as much as 20 or 30 or 40 points in one day if the combination of the numbers are good and the guidance is strong. What is going to happen? My sense is that there's a lot of Tesla good news that is going to get filtered into the stock, and there are a lot of shorts they're going to have to cover if that news forces the stock up violently. Are there some risks for Tesla, or are there issues? Yeah, I would say so, but the bottom line is that um, there's still a large number of people, I would say half the people, are going to buy one of the extended ranges versions of the Model 3 or Model X or S. So the demand is strong. They just need to open it up to more than North America, and there will be no inventory to speak of. Um, the other thing I wanted to mention to all of you is there's actually a book by Taleb called The Black Swan. What that book is about is the fact that in general in Russia there's one out of every 100,000 swans is black. As you know, everybody thinks of a white swan when you think of swans. Well, what's going on is that when you look at what happened, when you look at what happened with, let's say, Facebook in terms of the dramatic move of the stock price down, that's an example of a black swan incident. Oh man, uh, that's an example of a black swan incident where there's an outlier activity that occurs. There's a whole bunch of money attached to that. So as we all know, Facebook lost $120 billion in market cap in 24 hours, basically. What will happen with Tesla? Well, it's my belief right now that, if you will, this is the last gasp of what will happen when it comes to riding on the fact that Tesla is going to go bankrupt, or it's not going to meet production numbers, or a whole host of reasons why there has been bad press on Tesla and Elon Musk. What I'm also fascinated by with Elon is the fact that he does some crazy things, but the quality of the technology and the company is excellent. So I just think it's a mistake that folks are underestimating him now that they've got the production stuff figured out. I think it's time for everybody to sort of give up the narrative of Tesla's about to go out of business, etc., and embrace the fact that production is running well. They're ready with all three vehicles. The company's making money. Elon Musk is going crazy on Twitter, but it's not affecting the operations of the company at all in terms of delivering great vehicles that people can purchase and at numbers that allow them to definitely meet their operating costs and have a little profit to go with it that they can use to reinvest into the business. So bottom line of this video was really emphasizing the fact that yes, stock prices can move dramatically. Facebook is an example of that, number one. Number two, this is it for Tesla. This earnings report and news on where we are on production is huge. It's going to, I think, cause the stock price to move. It does have a risk that that movement could be down for reasons unknown. But if you're a Tesla investor, or you know a little bit about options, I think this might be a buying opportunity where you can make some money at the expense of some of the short sellers. I'm also intrigued by how, at one moment the whole narrative on Tesla is moving, is moving in one direction, and then all of a sudden it pivots to a completely different focus. So, for example, in the case of Tesla, there's a huge discussion of will they or won't they make 5,000 production a week, and now that seems to be a given, and the numbers that are targeted are in the 6,000 to 7,000 range is sort of the next step. What I'm thinking about right now is that I just think there's a lot of good news that's going to get baked into the stock, and Tesla's going to stabilize. And one difference between Tesla and Facebook is when you count the number of vehicles being moved through, it gives you kind of a window on the earnings numbers that you can anticipate. So bottom line is that I just think there's ways to anticipate what the revenue numbers look like and are they good or not. I say that the only risk there is right now is finishing off getting ready to produce the solar panels out of the Buffalo factory, and whether or not some of those costs further drag the company down. I'd say that's the only risk that I can see on the horizon. Um, any rate, I sort of just really wanted to focus on this because I didn't want to miss the opportunity of this change in the margin rules and the implications of that. Um, as you all know, Tesla, I believe, is the most shorted stock on the stock market. And so because it is, you can have some really interesting stock price movements that are related. And if you hit it right, you can actually make a great deal of money in the process, hopefully maybe even pay off your car. Um, at this point, I just wanted to pivot on other news that's popped up over the week or the last, 10 or 15 days or so. One of the big conversations was the fact that Tesla's kind of stockpiling cars away from the factory, either in Lathrop or another spot. Um, One of the things I've been trying to figure out for a long time is when you're producing 5,000 cars a week, you can't get all those trucks in to a fairly tight space in very bad traffic. So I would question if Tesla isn't moving completed vehicles off of their lot in large numbers during non-peak hours so that they can preserve that space for the movement of Model X's and S's directly to customers. Another thing that I've been having a hard time showing you guys, but if you go over to our Tesla Fan Insight on Facebook, you'll notice that we're doing a weekly sort of picture update on what we're seeing at our local delivery facility in Tyson's Corner. One of the data points that I've had a hard time presenting by picture, and I'll try again, but it hasn't been working very well, is I've been sort of noting the fact that the Model 3s are moving in and then back out as soon as they're prepped for customers to receive them. That part is going smoothly and we can see those cars moving in and out. One of the data points that I've been intrigued by is there's actually an indoor storage facility for brand new Model X's and S's that have come in prior to, from what I can tell, customer delivery. And it just seems to me that the movement of those vehicles has started declining. So it just seems to me that there are a lot of people choosing a Model 3 instead of a Model X or S. And that's starting to affect, kind of a recalibration of how many of the X's and S's to put out. I actually believe, based on the current pricing of Tesla, that we're seeing a situation where the price is actually, or the situation I think we're seeing right now is that if you're just in time ordering Model X's and S's, the vehicles that are in inventory will be gone and none produced new until you actually have order demand. I also think that the margins are as good, if not better, on the Model 3, so having the mix of what's being sold switch out is not a big deal. Jerry, you asked a question about, is the car shipped by rail or by truck? My understanding from what I've seen is it's actually being shipped by truck primarily, even across the country. You're right that it does make sense for them to put it up on rail, but you also have the issue of potential damage out there. And then the other problem is, are you doing concentrated delivery from there? Great question about what's going on with the China Gigafactory. I'm fascinated because a lot of people think that Tesla is going to give away all of its technology patents to that plant. And I believe there's going to be some creativity where a portion of what's happening that's well known and documented will be exposed to a lot of folks. But I think that Tesla will reserve the right to keep certain equipment not in the China factory to avoid it becoming a patent crazy situation, as we've heard about with a lot of other technology and other companies in China. So I believe, uh, good point. Yeah, good point. It'll be cheaper on a Tesla truck to move vehicles rather than moving them by rail. Um, the one problem with rail is like 90% of stuff is shipped by trucks because your destinations may not fit the destination of the rail very well. And then the headaches of getting it onto a truck after it gets closer to that destination also introduces challenges that you don't have to deal with. So, at any rate, I think it's an interesting situation. We're going to know more about why those cars are sitting out in Lathrop and other places in large numbers. I actually think that in the back of my mind, what I'm thinking about is Tesla's preparing for European shipments. And if you're going to ship to Europe, you pretty much want to fill up a ship full of cars. And so I actually kind of think that that's where we're going with this is I believe we're 3 or 4 months away from the U.S. being satiated, and then we open up European shipments from there, and then the rest of the world after that, and you're going to have to inventory vehicles to be able to deliver to those customers. And so I kind of feel like that's why we see this situation. Um, Any rate, I just wanted to thank you all once again for taking time out. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Please take time to like and subscribe. It would be helpful to have you hit the bell icon so you don't miss us when we're on live. I also want to encourage you to support us on Patreon if possible. A couple of bucks a month definitely makes a difference. Aaron, Jerry, and our other guests who are here live with us, thanks for taking time out once again to join us. Wow, I had a cool Machiavelli quote for you guys, but I don't have it queued up. Maybe I'll leave you. So I have my quote book out, and there's some really cool quotes that are embodied here. So I decided I'm going to start adding a quote of the show or a quote of the week to our list. And the quote for today comes from Niels Bohr, a Danish physicist and Nobel Prize winner. An expert is a person who has made all the mistakes that can be made in a very narrow field. Any rate, Niels Bohr, Nobel Prize winning physicist, your quote of the day from him. I want to thank you again for joining us. Tschüss, mach's gut. German, au revoir, French. I was going to say ni hao ma, but Chinese, that's just a hello. I wanted to, again, thank you for joining us. Enough respect, walk good in Jamaican, lahit in Hebrew, khoda hafez in Farsi, and we'll add other languages as I learn them with all of your help. Hey Jerry, thanks again that you actually want to hear what I got to say or we've got to say for a whole hour, but at least we're making an effort, dude. I hope you have a relaxing and interesting Sunday. Again, we're in Washington, D.C. at a place called United House of Prayer. So behind us is the Washington Convention Center, and I am going to take you guys out video of United House of Prayer style here on our way out, and then sign off from there. Hey, Zia, thanks, Bob. So you can see the Washington Convention Center down there. We're at a church complex called the United House of Prayer, and we're kind of at, I guess we're at